I think we should possibly move on because I can, and indeed in the past have, gone on for fucking hours about what an untalented wank H.P. Lovecraft was. So, like, maybe we should cut off Flame Skulls and go for something else.
Yeah, mind you, I do have to say, while you roll and count up thing, if I had to bring any writer into the modern day, I would love to unleash Charles Dickens on the current Tory government. That'd be fucking good. I wonder how Dickens did feel about disabled rights. That's an interesting question.
I feel like he was probably in favour of at least some of them.
Yeah, I mean, like, he was a fairly socialist guy. Like, he's not...
I think in that particular environment, quite a lot of the complaints... The general complaints of the disabled were caused by unsafe working conditions in, like, just the general working class jobs that there were, which Dickens himself was very, very much not in favour of. So I think, like, if you highlighted that extension to him, he would probably be on board. Anyway,
I think so.
Our page is 269, where we will talk about the shadow, but since it's the same spread, I want to talk about the scarecrow as well.
Okay.
But yeah, shadows first.
269. Yeah, like I want to say right now, the artwork for the shadows, it's gorgeous. I love it. It's really creepy,
especially since like the head is definitely a 3-dimensional object, but like the rest of the shadow is just this sort of vague block color. Like it's a very hard line on the outside of the shadow, but the hand, if you like, that's clasping over the guy's face is just this sort of vague mass of misty, smoky stuff. It's really good.
I love it. It's great. I love it. Really good. A+ to whoever, because I know that presumably they get different contributors because sometimes these look different.
There's more than one artist, but I think there's a small number of artists. It's difficult to tell. I think like who exactly the artist on any given thing is.
I'll try and find out while you talk a bit about them.
Right. So shadows have a challenge rating of half. And generally, if something has a challenge rating below 1, it either means these are great to turn up when the party is split up, or these need to turn up in large numbers. A challenge rating of half generally means, a group of level 1s should be able to deal with 2 of them, so you should make 3 turn up, and then just keep going beyond that. Shadows are... So, given that we're supposed to believe shadows turn up in groups, I think the best... analogy we can draw is Dementors in Harry Potter.
The
shadows, I think, are a little harder to see because they move around in darkness and they're like literally shadows. Oh, hang on. The shadow reaches out to feed on living creatures' vitality. They can consume any living creature, but they are especially drawn to creatures untainted by evil. A creature that lives a life of goodness and piety consigns its basest impulses and strongest temptations to the darkness where the shadow's hunger. As a shadow drains its victim's strength and physical form, the victim's shadow darkens and begins to move of its own volition. In death, the creature's shadow breaks free, becoming a new undead shadow ready for more life to consume. This is these guys' deal. They make more of themselves out of your shadow. So that can get creepy. That can be an explosion very quickly in a populated area. There's shades of if you ever saw the Doctor Who 2-parter with the Vashta Nerada in it, it's not exactly the same sort of thing, but it's that sort of nonsense. These things have a ridiculous number of damage resistances and immunities as well. So like. Non-magical weapons they have a resistance against. They also have resistances against acid, cold, fire, lightning, thunder. They don't require air, food, drink, or sleep. They cannot be damaged by necrotic or poison damage, and they can't be exhausted, frightened, grappled, paralyzed, petrified, poisoned, prone, or restrained. They're sort of basically only semi...
that makes sense because they're a shadow. So
they're a shadow. They're very... they can move through a space as narrow as 1 inch wide without squeezing. So... I think they're trying as hard as they can in the start lock to be like, no, this is a shadow is attacking you. They're harmed by sunlight, obviously, because those recruit there. They're not harmed by it, but they have disadvantage on attack rolls, ability checks, and saving throws while in it. While in dim light or darkness, they can take the hide action as a bonus action. So, well, obviously, right? Especially in darkness, where it's like, you can't even see the shadow. Ooh! So yeah, these things are challenge level half, but they're still pretty nasty because their only attack, again, is necrotic damage, strength drain. They're on a hit. They have +4 to hit. They can only do it for 1 creature. It's a reach of 5 feet. If they hit, they do 2d6 plus 2 necrotic damage, and the target... they drain your strength as well. These are very much glass cannons then. They only have 3d8 plus 3 hit points, which averages at 6, and their armor class is 12, so they're ridiculously easy to hit initially, provided you can actually do damage to them. But the strength... every time they hit you, your strength score is reduced by 1d4. If your health or your strength are reduced to 0, you die. Yeah.
They are really... like, they're just overall pretty creepy. Yeah. And I love that about the Shadow. He's very menacing and...
yeah, obviously.
Fairly low level, so it's like...
yeah. And it's like, obviously, the strength drain effects, you can sleep those off. If you finish a long rest, then the necrotic damage things... actually, I wonder if I'm reading this wrong. I apologize if I have been reading this wrong, and like the necrotic damage thing is actually specific to vampires, and like it's not all necrotic damage that does that. I was pretty sure that was the case, but we should maybe look that up at some point. I'm very sorry if it doesn't, but still, shadows have a way of reducing your strength, which is actually probably better because you can still die if that's reduced to 0, but it's a better long-term plan because that, like, your strength doesn't really go up hugely as you level, whereas hit points increase fairly quickly as you level. Like, you know, you're up to level 6 or so, you'll have quite a lot of hit points if you're a fighter, but you'll still probably only have, like, 18 strength. And if you get mobbed by shadows, they can, like, de-stat you to death. If a non-evil humanoid dies from strength drain, a new shadow rises from the corpse 24 hours later. So they have a lot of ways of making more of themselves out of player characters. Shadows are nasty. They're difficult to detect. They're difficult to hit. Their stats aren't great, but they have a lot of ways of making more of themselves out of you. They have a lot of resistances and immunities. They're vulnerable to radiant damage, obviously, because, you know, radiant damage is like light and the sun and stuff. So use that against them. Scorching Ray is it Scorching Ray? Not Scorching Ray. Sacred Flame.
Unfortunately, I've been trying to find out who the specific artist for this bit of artwork is. It's actually really difficult. There's actually also quite a few artists in this monster manual.
A lot of the art is very, very similar.
Yeah, if you go at the front, there's a decent amount of them. I assume some of them will also be like colorists and stuff like that, which is how they've kind of made some of the artwork look.
I imagine that this
uniform.
artist probably has a DeviantArt, so if we could actually like search for the image, we would probably be able to find that, and then we would know who the artist is. If I find that out after we've recorded this podcast, I'll put it in the description because that'd be cool.
Yeah. I think we'll try and give credit for most of the artwork we talk about in detail as well. I think.
Yeah, if we actually compliment the art, it'd be nice to say. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
The Scarecrow.
Alternatively, if we don't find out and we say that we haven't found out in the comment below, and tell us,
and then we'll put it in,
and we'll add that.
Let's talk about the Scarecrow. I fucking love the Scarecrows. All right. They're so silly, but there's something so unbelievably creepy about them.
I think it's that it's sort of the same feeling kind of attached to mannequins and dolls, isn't it, really? Except this one actually moves.
And it's that vague uncanny valley thing in that there's this sort of thing that you know is supposed to like represent a human being, but only does so in the most basic sense. So I used scarecrows recently. In Dawn Somber, there is an equivalent of Halloween. It's called Harvest Night, and the idea of Harvest Night is that it's the first day of the second month of autumn, and in the Dawn Somber calendar there are only 2 months every season because the months are defined as being half of a season. Like, you have 1 month that's like going into the height of a season, and then 1 month that's coming out of it, and it's like, okay, Harvest Night is the first day of Soil Feast, and the idea of Harvest Night is, ostensibly, it was first used by farmers who to remind themselves that they needed to have all their crops in by then. Because I don't know shit about farming, and I don't know if that's an appropriate thing to do in the middle of autumn.
Well, like, there is sort of the idea of, like, there are, like, pumpkins are ready in October. That's the thing pumpkins are ready for. So I suppose if there was squash growing farmers all over Dawn Somber,
that would
work.
Like,
is
fruit
squash
and
a popular
stuff
fruit?
Is like,
yeah.
I don't think it's particularly unreasonable. It just might not be the exact point where that sort of thing needs to happen. But also I think their year is a different length, so it's all fucked anyway.
Yeah.
But, right, so Harvest Night, like, one thing that is definitely the case in the Dawn Somber canon is there's all these myths in Harvest Night about, like, it's difficult to swing Halloween in a setting where, like, ghosts and demons and evil spirits and stuff are things that both exist and that people know exist. But it's more Harvest Night is like the night when they are at their strongest, where they receive a boost of power and they roam the world looking for things. So Harvest Night is
that's a lot of the thing. Not necessarily Halloween itself, because I know Hallows Eve is about something to do with Christianity. I honestly didn't pay attention in church school, yeah. But I know that Samhain, I hope I'm saying that right, Samhain? I know that's, like, the idea behind that is it's when the line between our realm and the spirit realm are at their weakest, and therefore demons and spirits and stuff cross over. And you must protect yourself against them by dressing up in costume so you can trick them into thinking you're a spirit.
Well, the deal, I know what the Christian explanation is, which is that the day immediately after November the 1st is All Hallows Day, which is All Saints Day, which is like the day of celebration for All Saints. So Halloween, All Hallows Eve, is the night that all of the horrible demons and evil spirits that have been festering the whole year come out and run away from the saints, whose day is the next day. Which, now that I actually say it out in words, doesn't make a huge amount of sense, so you can imagine that's probably the reason why it's so easy to believe that it did in fact supplant a more sense-making pagan festival.
Yeah.
But scarecrows are so good.
They are.
So, there's a lot of ways you could run with these. They're only challenge level 1. They're fairly easy to deal with. A scarecrow is animated by the bound spirit of a slain evil creature, granting it purpose and mobility. It is this uncanny presence from beyond death that allows a scarecrow to inspire fear to those it gazes upon. Hags and witches often bind scarecrows with the spirits of demons, but any evil spirit will do. Although aspects of the spirit's personality might surface, a scarecrow spirit doesn't recall the memories it had as a creature, and its will is focused solely on serving its creator. If its creator dies, the spirit inhabiting a scarecrow either continues to follow its last commands, seeks revenge for its creator's death, or destroys itself. Scarecrows do not require air, food, drink, or sleep.
I do have a thing in general about a lot of the constructs in this. I think another one that I really like along with the scarecrow is the animated armor. Which I also used recently. But that's kind of Lucian Bartello's calling card is constructs. But yeah, that's...
The thing that was so good about these scarecrows was that the scenario that I did was set in, like, not a moor, but like a set of rolling fields with a tiny farmhouse in a valley. And there were scarecrows fucking everywhere. And, like, the players were a little... It's weird, because I want to say this in the kind of tone of voice where you say, you're a little old for that, right? No, the players were a little high level to be menaced by a scarecrow. So instead, I did the Grandmother's Footsteps monster. And indeed, scarecrows are really good for this, because they have false appearance. While the scarecrow remains motionless, it is indistinguishable from an ordinary inanimate scarecrow. The Grandmother's Footsteps monster is amazing, and it's one of the best tools in your toolbox for doing a spooky scenario.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, right? I'm sure everybody is aware of, like, Slender Man and SCP, whatever it is, the big baby statue that snaps your neck in the dark, and Stephen Moffat's Weeping Angels from Doctor Who. All of that shit.
I think that there's another one as well of there's like that urban legend on the internet that goes around, like, oh, if you look at a picture of her on the internet, when you turn around, she'll, like, stab you in the neck with scissors because she'll be standing right behind you. But just specifically if you read this legend. So if you look around, she'll kill you. But if you don't look, she won't kill you. But eventually, you're going to have to look. Yeah.
The thing that is motionless when you look at it, but only when you look at it, is a really, really good horror technique.
It is. It's
that's
really
honestly,
scary.
I think, why so many people believe that... that Blink is the best of Stephen Moffat's Doctor Who episodes before he became showrunner. And honestly, I think it is as well. It has its own problems, but the Weeping Angels, when they first turned up, just in Blink, were so good as a scary monster.
I think what helps with the Weeping Angels as well is they're so quick, and also they also look terrifying as well mid-run at you sometimes.
That's the thing, they have two expressions, and both of them are terrifying. Like, there's one that's just completely stony-faced, if you pardon the accidental pun, where they just have the expression that a sculptor would put on, like, a statue of an angel. And they're just, they're obviously moving, but like that face. It's just a human face with like no pupils in the eyes or anything. And then they have the face that the angel that's right on top of the main characters makes, which is just frozen in mid-scream with like fangs and...
Yeah, and the in-universe explanation for that is so good, because it's... The weeping angel always has the appearance of a weeping angel, right? But the claws and the fangs and the angry expression are there because your brain knows that danger's happening. So the illusion is dropping slightly, because you know they're supposed to be a dangerous
But your brain
creature.
doesn't really like understand the context of the danger, so it tries to embellish the image that you're seeing with like things that you will understand as being visions of danger.
You know, and then Stephen Moffat fucked it all in the ass episodes later when... You know, 'cause the idea of the weeping angel is they're only an angel when you look at them. We're not actually supposed to know what a weeping angel looks like. And that's why Stephen Moffat making the Statue of Liberty was fucking stupid. Making the Statue of Liberty a weeping angel was fucking stupid.
We're not going to talk about Stephen
Moffat
anymore, because we've done that on previous podcasts and it created so many supplementary episodes. God.
I guess. But look, he really is the greatest monster we'll discuss on this podcast. Boom!
Fucking
Went
wrecked.
for it.
Anyway, scarecrows have that same deal, and that's how I did them. I was like... I tried to slow burn it by making it that because the players didn't tell me that they were like noting the position of the scarecrows or anything, I was like, maybe the scarecrows have moved, you're not entirely sure. And then like it became harder and harder to hide the fact that the scarecrows were all basically like bunching around the farmhouse. And I was later going to have like a thing where like when they were upstairs, they would hear a smashing noise from downstairs, and they come downstairs and there's like a corner of the front door has been completely smashed in, and there are just like 5 scarecrows standing on the doorstep outside, completely motionless. Yeah. That sort of thing. Like, you really, really have to have a grandmother's footsteps monster if you want to make it like a spooky scenario, I think, because you've got to have that kind of slow-burning horror. It's so, so good.
But I do think another idea behind constructs to kind of... Yeah, grandmother's footsteps, awesome. But also, someone has to make a construct, right? That itself is scary, I think. Like, someone's went, I'm going to create these horrible monsters to prevent these people from reaching their goal. And that itself can be quite scary, especially if you don't know.
And the thing about scarecrows that I think makes them so scary in that particular regard is they're fucking scarecrows. In terms of, like, generating humanoid figure constructs, they are one of the easiest to mass produce. You need a bunch of old clothes or just some rags and some kind of stuffing material. Yeah.
I feel like we should probably talk about flesh golems next, because I feel like they're the hardest human-like constructs to create, being that you need lots of dead bodies to make them.
Sure, we can talk about those. So yeah, just briefly, scarecrows have an ability that allow them to scare people. The DC on the saving throw is pretty low, but if they encounter a scarecrow at level 1, your player's probably going to be in a pretty big bind. Oh, and the fright effect is paralysis, so... Yeah. They have got a number of condition immunities as well. They can't be charmed, exhausted, frightened, paralyzed, poisoned, or knocked unconscious. So that's pretty cool. And they have resistance to non-magical weapons, which on a challenge rating 1 corporeal monster is kind of, unexpected, I would say. But sure, let's talk about flesh golems. Page 169 for those following along at home.
Oh, yeah. These are pretty gruesome looking dudes to start off with. Like, the monster manual definitely gets the...
He's got this lopsided face. There's, stitching all over the body. There's bits of it that it's all the same colour, but there's bits of it that are, the wrong size proportionally, and it's kind of difficult to tell because it might just be that he's lurching towards the viewer. But I think his left arm on the whole is much larger than his right. Yeah,
I think that is meant to be the intent, isn't it? I think it's good that the scientist creating this decided to colour match him. I think that was very kind, because he could have decided to not give a shit. Because I think, especially in a fantasy universe, you can just stick bits of Golem and Dwarf together without not Golem. Orc and dwarf together without any real consideration for
and even different
what goes
humans.
Together, I think. At least he decided to colour match it, Anyway,
now, okay, obviously
they don't have a very
Obviously, the thing this is most supposed to invoke is Frankenstein, right?
Yeah, these are the most Ravenlofty of all the Ravenloft monsters. I personally feel, because I think there's nothing more gothic than Frankenstein. That's my opinion.
I think if anybody listens to Mark Rosewater's Drive to Work podcast and the series that he did on the development philosophy behind Innistrad, you'll remember that he talked about how he realized there's two kinds of zombies, and the blue kind of zombies are this kind of thing, like the flesh golems, the Frankensteins, that sort of undead horror kind of thing. So it is definitely a very like Ravenlofty Innistrad kind of thing.
Yeah.
But the pull quote here also puts you in mind of gravediggers and of Burke and Hare, and who was the scientist that they were supplying?
Someone Knox, wasn't it?
Was it Knox?
I know it was a very, very like, yes, this guy probably did. Like, I'm certain it was Dr. Knox because
it was in Glasgow.
It's one of those very super villain sounding names.
I think it was Edinburgh because they had because it was like what he was doing was technically not illegal unless it could be proved that he was using
Robert Knox, that was his name, right?
Dr. Robert Knox,
was a Scottish. Dr. Robert Knox was a Scottish anatomist, zoologist, anthologist, and doctor. He was most popular a lecturer of anatomy in Britain, where he introduced the theory of transcendental anatomy, but is now best known for his involvement in the Burke and Hare murders. Difficulty in containing cadavers for dissection after the passage of the Anatomy Act and disagreements with professional colleagues ruined his career, and a move to London did not improve matters.
See, that's the thing. It was the Burke and Hare murders. Robert Knox became high profile because Burke and Hare were actually killing people to supply his dissections, whereas he thought, I don't actually know if he did indeed think this, but I'm pretty sure that he must have thought that they were grave robbing for him, which was also illegal, but presumably not as heavily enforced as literally murdering people to fuel anatomy lectures.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, he must have gotten sister because he must have been like, you guys really turn around these dead bodies really quite quickly, and there are very, very fresh stab marks on this. Anyway, time to set up this anatomy lecture.
I believe it is possible, just possible,
he must have had a
didn't know that.
Suspicion.
I believe it is possible that Knox didn't know that they were murdering people, but he 100%, if he didn't know they were murdering people, knew that he was contracting them
the bodies were
be
obtained illegally.
Either grave snatching or gallows snatching.
Yeah.
Gallows snatching was kind of weird because I think in some places, like, if the crime committed by the criminal was sufficient, they were just, like, handed over for, like, dissection because it was like they don't deserve a proper burial.
Well, that is what happened eventually to Burke and Hare, isn't it?
I believe it happened to one of them at least.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's definitely. I think it was Burke actually.
Yeah, I'd say this was off topic, but
no, I mean,
because we're talking about serial killers, it's we're right on topic basically.
This is really cool.
But
yeah. So yeah, the flesh golem is that kind of Burke and Hare, Frankenstein. What has science done kind of thing. It's really good.
Yes. Or I guess technically, what has magic? I mean, if you're in a fantasy setting, it's magic that's doing this.
The fun thing about
or science magical science.
I'm trying to see, like, flesh golem. A flesh golem is a grisly assortment of humanoid body parts stitched and bolted together into a muscled brute imbued with formidable strength. Its brain is capable of simple reason, though its thoughts are no more sophisticated than those of a young child. The golem's muscle tissue responds to the power of lightning, invigorating the creature with vitality and strength. Powerful enchantments protect the golem's skin, deflecting spells and all but the most potent weapons. A flesh golem lurches with a stiff-jointed gait as if not in complete control of its body. Its dead flesh isn't an ideal container for an elemental spirit, which sometimes howls incoherently to vent its outrage. If the spirit breaks free of its creator's will, the golem goes berserk until calmed, or until its shell of flesh is destroyed or completely healed. Okay.
Yep, it's magic.
Magic is mentioned, like, as being, like, powerful enchantments protect its skin. Yeah. But come on.
Well, golems...
Lightning.
Golems are made from humble materials and they possess astonishing power and durability. But one requires a manual of golems, comprehensive illustrations and instruction manual of detail in the process of creating a golem for this particular type, and then an elemental spirit. So it has to be an element. There's got to be a spirit of some kind in there.
That's the technical explanation for how it works. But look at the flesh golem description. The golem's muscle tissue responds to the power of lightning, invigorating the creature with vitality and strength. If the spirit breaks free of its creator's will, the golem goes berserk until calmed, or until its shell of flesh is destroyed or completely healed. The flesh golem is supposed to be Frankenstein's monster. They are giving you full license.
We know it's supposed to be
like,
Frankenstein.
This is Frankenstein's monster. You know it's Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah.
We know it's Frankenstein's monster. Just whatever. Yeah. If your players ask, here is the bullshit, but it's Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah.
Which is maybe not fair to Frankenstein's monster, which is actually like pretty cognizant of many of the things that happen to it, and that's...
Yeah, actually, I think what makes Frankenstein's monster so scary is that he's very aware, actually, and he is going to enact
that
his
fuels most of the conflict in the book
Victor,
itself,
no matter what.
Right?
Yeah.
But anyway.
I mean, if anyone's ever watched Penny Dreadful, Caliban is terrifying in that, and he's Frankenstein's monster. He's absolutely terrifying. Like, he just straight up punches a guy's heart out, and that's his introductory scene. It's
so the flesh
awesome.
Golem, okay, this thing has pretty stiff penalties on dexterity, intelligence, and definitely charisma.
Of course it would, yeah. He's not an attractive guy, and he's not, particularly dexterous either. He's there as the big monster, isn't he, really? He is,
all right.
He's the act of a desperate man.
I mean, definitely, he's supposed to be...
Maybe, yeah.
Frankenstein's monster, but okay. So, really high strength for something with challenge rating 5. Armor class is 9 because he's basically not wearing any armor at all, and he's constructed entirely of flesh.
Yeah. Presumably, if he was given proper armor, he'd have higher armor class. I guess it depends on whether he's just been made or not.
I feel he might have difficulty fitting into armor, though, because he has such weird proportions.
Yeah.
Right, so he's immune to lightning and poison damage. And immune to damage from non-magical weapons that aren't adamantine. He is immune to being charmed, exhausted, frightened, paralyzed, petrified, and poisoned. So difficult to deal with, I think, without magical weapons.
Yeah. I think definitely for challenge level 5.
Yeah, challenge level 5 is around the point where you... Like, maybe one person in the party has a magical weapon, and it's not a good one.
Yeah. It's... That's tricky. Yeah.
Oh,
but challenge level 5.
But if the golem takes fire damage, it has disadvantage on attack rolls and ability checks until the end of its next turn. So fire is evidently the way to deal with this thing. It has immutable form. The golem is immune to any spell or effect that would alter its form, which I would say would be in some kind of flavor. Except all golems have that. If you actually look back or forward in the bit of the manual, like everything in the golem section has immutable form.
Yeah, I will say this as a thing when you say golem. Like, obviously this is what the monster manual calls them, but I think Alex doesn't particularly agree with the fact that they're called golems.
Yeah, it's like, the problem is, a while back when I first considered this, I remembered, like, a really cool word to call them instead that doesn't really have any issues with, like, being a... vaguely anti-Semitic reference to a Jewish traditional story that isn't really about like horrific monsters. But I can't remember what the name is.
I mean, normally I just call them flesh constructs. That's always what I always substitute the word golem with like clay construct, stone construct.
The thing that I like with this particular range of monsters is that very often it's not really necessary to name them because they will be turning up in a particular context. Like the stone golem. Yeah. Like most cases, those are going to be statues that came to life, so you can just call them statues. Iron golems aren't robots, but they look enough like them in the illustration, and they'll probably turn up in similar enough context that you can just say that. Flesh golem, everybody's going to call it Frankenstein's monster anyway, so,
Yeah. And you're going to be like, it's not Frankenstein's monster, there's no Frankenstein here. And they're going to be like, yeah, but what is it though?
Yeah.
And you're going to be like...
So, this guy has magic magic resistance. He has advantage on saving throws against spells and other magical effects. He absorbs lightning damage. Nice. When he's subjected to lightning damage, he takes no damage and instead regains a number of hit points equal to the lightning damage dealt. It's fucking Frankenstein's monster.
It's Frankenstein's monster. I do have to say this. It's interesting how he's the weakest of all the golem monsters.
Yeah, but the thing is, like...
But that kind of works, I think.
If you look at For a start, they're all large, and he's medium. Like, he's roughly medium, the size of a human being, whereas, like, the clay one and the iron one and the stone one are all pretty fucking huge.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes sense that he would be the weakest, I think, despite that he has that pretty sick lightning-absorbing ability. And he also has Berserk, which is... Oh, shit! Yeah. Fun thing about Berserk is you can't avoid it unless you can deal more than 40 damage to this thing at once. Because whenever the golem starts its turn with 40 hit points or fewer, roll a d6. On a 6, the golem goes berserk. On each of its turns while berserk, the golem attacks the nearest creature it can see. If no creature is near enough to move to and attack, it attacks an object with preference for an object smaller than itself. Once it goes berserk, it continues to do so until it is destroyed or regains all its hit points. Its creator, if within 60 feet, can try and calm it by speaking firmly and persuasively. The golem must be able to hear its creator, who must make an action to make a DC 15 Charisma Persuasion check. If the check succeeds, it ceases being berserk. If it takes damage while still at 40 hit points or fewer, it might go berserk again. So that's pretty scary. I say pretty scary, but that's kind of... If you actually look at what the words it say is, it's only really scary if the golem is otherwise doing things that do not constitute an immediate danger to members of the party. Because, like, if it goes berserk and it starts attacking people and it wasn't previously attacking people, I don't know why it would get down to below 40 hit points if that was the case, but, it might. It might.
I guess you could have, because, I mean, they're neutral, so it all depends on the moral alignment of the creator. So I guess you could just have a fleshed golem who's just kind of hanging out.
If it breaks free of its creator's will, then it goes berserk until calmed. Like, it has to go berserk then. So if it went berserk once and killed its creator, which would be in flavor, then it would just, like, be berserk the whole time and keep attacking until it was killed, which for challenge level 5 is like, maybe it would kill you. Cool.
I think another thing about flesh golems, though, if we could just quickly finish it, I think the scary bit of a flesh golem is their construction, though, isn't it, really? And the idea that it might be you, dear player, who has been selected for the process of being a part of something bigger than yourself.
There's definitely that whole, like, desecration of graves thing, which I think is why grave robbing is brought up. That sort of aversion we have to, like, the contravention of, like, the wholeness of the body. In terms of, like, why Frankenstein's monster is scary, obviously it's ridiculously ugly, and also it's considerably larger than a normal human being, so it sort of presents this sort of immediate present danger, but it's not like... It doesn't menace, I don't think, in the way that, like, something weirdly alien and pointy would.
Yeah. I think there's definitely some scariness to it from the fact that, it's the fact that it's childlike as well, and that it's not particularly intelligent, it lumbers around, that's quite scary. The idea that it's technically a fairly innocent creature but has great power is quite unsettling.
Well, again, in Frankenstein, one of the reasons that the monster was angry was that even though it operated at a higher intellectual level than this, it was aware that it was essentially a child, that there were a lot of things that it didn't understand about the world, and that its, like, the nature of its existence was preventing it from being able to understand. And it was really angry at Frankenstein for that.
Yeah.
That's kind of its deal.
Yeah, it's like, hey, Victor, you dick.
Yeah, Victor Frankenstein's a dick.
Fight me 1v1, or I'll kill everyone you love.
Do we maybe want to do just a couple more?
Yeah, we'll do a couple more. Go random. Yeah.
And then I'll talk about, like, a couple of things from the second edition Monster Manual.
Yeah.
Let's go random. How many do we have now?
I mean, I'd like to discuss werewolves and stuff like that. That would be good. And then we'll just pick a random one.
We'll roll random, and if it's not werewolves, then we'll do, like, werewolves as the second one that we do. Right. Page 44. The
crawling
claw.
Yeah, I think I put this one forward as a monster that is scary initially, because I think most people would have overlooked it, but I went, it's a hand.
Well, this is the thing.
That is creepy.
It's a crawling claw. It crawls. It's a hand it crawls. It's kind of like a spider in that respect, like a really big, horrible spider.
Except kind of worse, because it's a hand that's been removed from someone.
Hand, yes.
Yeah, technically it's worse.
According to the flavor text, it has to be a murderer's hand. I'm not entirely sure why.
Nice! No, I kind of get what the lore where that comes from.
Like, maybe it's part of the original myth. Oh, it's immune to effects that can turn undead. I like it already. It has challenge rating 0, but I presume that, like, its whole deal is that it's more of a technical monster in that it's not incredibly powerful and it can be pretty easily killed, but it, like, menaces. Like, it's going to wrap itself around someone's throat and try and choke them to death.
Yeah. Or that it's just kind of... Because it's tiny, so it's something that you could overlook initially.
Yeah.
Or, hey, you walk into the necromancer's lair. Wow, there are a lot of hands here. You wait around a bit, you look around a bit, you get some information. You come back to the room. Where have all those hands gone? Surprise! They're above you, and they're all going to choke you to death.
This thing has 1d4 hit points, so you can pretty much instantly kill it by hitting it at all. I think I know what the Crawling Claw is for. The Crawling Claw, like, it has all this lore, if you want, about, like, you know, why it exists and why it might come after you. No. The Crawling Claw is a template for a very specific horrifying scenario. Some of the people listening may have played the free and very obtuse video game Dwarf Fortress. In Dwarf Fortress, there are certain environments which are termed evil. In evil environments, things don't stay dead. And in particularly evil environments, bits of things don't stay dead. Like, it actually becomes very, very difficult to, like, to create a fortress in a very evil environment, because not only is it really fucking evil and there's horrible monsters around everywhere, but, like, anytime a dwarf dies, their corpse comes back to life, and, like, another dwarf will try and, like, stop them and just, like, hack their corpse into pieces, and then the pieces will come back to life, and there's just, like, intestines and shit just, like, writhing around after you, trying to choke you and stuff like that. And I think the Crawling Claw is basically a template for body parts that have reanimated of their own accord, which is excellent if you want to do, like, a very, very heavy undead Halloween scenario.
Yeah. I just want to read the flavor text a bit, because I like it. Makes you wonder what can be done with all those other murderer parts, doesn't it?
There you go. Basically confirmation.
There you go.
That's exactly what they were trying to do. Because these are pretty good stats, I think, for, like, any self-ambulatory, like, isolated body part that is undead.
Yeah, and you can kind of change claw to an appropriate, you know, melee attack, like kick or bite or sneeze. Lick. You know, that kind of thing. Oh, man, imagining opening up a jar of tongues and it's all, like, undead reanimated tongues. And there's, like, a key in the bottom that you have to get. No.
They're licking me. They're all wrapped around. You pull your arm out with the key, and, like, all of the tongues are just wrapped around your, like, forearm, and you're like,
yeah.
Oh god, no.
Yeah, I kind of want to draw that as the art of for this episode now. We'll see if that happens. That'd be good.
Like, I think the claw attack works just as well for, like, you being garroted by, like, intestines or something of that sort.
Oh man, yeah.
Or, like, you being clasped onto by, like, a lower face that's just a jaw. Or something of that sort. So yeah, Crawling Claw, as far as I'm concerned, is a template for isolated body parts that are still attacking you. And you totally should use it as such. Especially like, since its challenge rating of 0 makes it basically free to just make it so that... Oh, because then you could have, like, your players would try and switch exclusively to bludgeoning weapons, even if they hadn't, like, met any skeletons yet, because they'd be like...
Yeah.
We have to use bludgeoning weapons and kill through, like, contusions or whatever, because if we chop up the bodies, then the bits of the bodies will come back to life. And then they do that and the bodies come back to life anyway, and it's just... that's horrible. All right, let's do were creatures, because I think we're running out of time, and I still want to get. We
love. Yeah, I will say this: I am someone who is personally, I prefer werewolves and lycanthropes for my kind of gothic, you know, fantasy creatures. That's what I'm all about.
I do like how the way it's presented generally, like the sort of general milieu surrounding like the myths, make vampires a very upper class monster and werewolves a very like working class monster. If you get my drift,
maybe that's what it is.
Maybe that is like why you like them. It's like
Yeah. I'm like, oh man, these bourgeois vampires
And it's
keeping us common werefolk down.
It's like loads of stories about werewolves have them being like ordinary people who get turned and because that's the thing, isn't it? Quite a lot of those stories are like, there's a horrible giant wolf menacing my lands. I am the lord of the manor and shit, and it's probably some peasant who's turned into a werewolf. Whereas like the vampire is I am the lord of the manor and I am the vampire and I have a huge amount of control over you that I'm going to abuse because I want to drink your blood.
Do you think that's why that must be why werewolves and vampires fight? It's a class war, surely.
I mean, obviously that's not the case in canon, but I wouldn't be surprised if that was like the initial reason in terms of like literary theme that it was a class war.
Yeah, I'm now actually really tempted to make vampires a thing in 2 just so I can have that scenario.
If anybody wants to link, like, if you've ever found any excellent, I'm sure, meta on vampires versus werewolves as a metaphor for class struggles, please do send it to my Tumblr or to my Twitter, because I would be really interested in reading that. I love this idea.
Yeah, I think that definitely has to be a scenario for 2. I think you get hired by a vampire
to eliminate the werewolves, or you get inducted into a werewolf gang who are like trying to fight the power.
Yeah,
to stick it to the man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really think that has to have come into it at some point. So, okay, lycanthropes.
Yeah. Especially because, like, look, 2's weird. Alex knows it. It's weird.
Yeah.
I think you've got
I think maybe like we want to talk about lycanthropes in general very briefly, and then skip to werewolves, because obviously like werewolves are the scariest, and they're the ones that people want to hear about.
Yeah. I think we all know that it's very easy to. I think being a lycanthrope, it's one of the easiest things to actually become.
Oh yeah, the pro
like character-wise, because I am an arachnothrope, because Jay's, because they turn into a spider.
And there's a character in my other game who is a were-crocodile. The fun thing about this I will recommend right now. Look at the lycanthrope rules in the monster manual. Lycanthropes are one of the most easily templated monsters, because they have essentially one rule when it comes to turning players into them, and that rule is ridiculously easy to convert over. The rule is this: when a player character is hit by an attack that carries the curse of lycanthropy, they must succeed on a Constitution saving throw, DC 8 plus the lycanthrope's proficiency bonus and the lycanthrope's Constitution modifier, or be cursed. If the character embraces the curse, his or her alignment becomes the one defined for the lycanthrope. You can basically ignore this if you want to be like sympathetic to lycanthropes in your game, or maybe you do want to take it away from them. But here's the thing. The DM is free to decide that a change in alignment places the character under DM control until the curse of lycanthropy is removed, so you have that power as a DM. I chose not to, because I'm like, player characters as lycanthropes, they're probably going to be able to keep it under control, and if they don't, that's going to be interesting as a story.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I think as well, here's the thing about being a lycanthrope, it's the duality between the beast and the person, isn't it? That's the conflict that it comes into. Like, people like to play around with, like, vampires having human feelings. No, fuck that, because that's what werewolves are about. That's werewolves things.
Oh, werewolves are basically anger management metaphor, aren't they?
Yeah, it's about, they must control their animalistic urges and their id in conflicts of what is them as a human, and who are they really? Are they the beast, or are they the man? That's their thing. It's not, am I a vampire or am I a human? Fuck off, you're a vampire, okay? And once you're a vampire and you do vampire-y things. But a werewolf isn't always a werewolf. They're a part-time monster.
Vampires are, like, a lot more in control of their, like, whole deal. So it's like, when a vampire is like, am I a vampire or am I a human? I'm like, honestly, mate, that's your decision. Like, you're a vampire, but if you want to act as close to human as possible and make moral decisions, you can do that. You have the power to do that. The werewolf is like, can exert maybe some control, but is really, really at the mercy of, like, their biology. And I think also, like, in more sympathetic space, werewolves are used a lot in fiction to explore the positive aspects of, like, shape-changing as a modifier on human experience.
Yeah.
Especially with things like
puberty,
the were-rat here. The were-rat is not really the same as the others, so you'd be like, they'd be running in a pack in a sewer or something, and that's... Okay, so the thing I was going to mention is there is one rule that applies to lycanthropes, which is that each lycanthrope has a focus stat. And this focus stat is... hang on. Yeah, has a focus stat, and the focus stat, they have a threshold for it, and if a character that gets turned into that particular kind of were-creature has that stat lower than the threshold, that stat is immediately raised to the threshold. If it isn't, then it isn't lowered, but, it's... So it's like, for instance, the were-bear has a strength...
Yeah.
Its focus stat is strength, and the threshold is 19.
Yeah.
If you get turned into a were-bear... And this happens the moment you get turned into a werebear, like, even if you haven't transformed yet. Like, basically the moment that the curse seeps into your veins. If you have a strength that is lower than 19, your strength becomes 19. This is honestly the one reason that I would caution against, like, being completely lenient about turning players into were-creatures, is that it's basically a straight upgrade mechanically.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
so
it is.
If you are going to do that, then play up the whole beast form causing problems thing quite hard, because there has to be sort of a counterpoint to what is otherwise just an improvement.
I do kind of imagine, like, if you get savaged by a werebear, which honestly, if you got savaged by a werebear, you probably deserved it because they're neutral good.
They are neutral good, yeah. So it's like I do like the fact that werebears are neutral good, because it's just like, they're nice and they will cuddle you. And I like to think that werebears are actually based off Bjorn from The Hobbit, who was not a lycanthrope,
I think, they probably
but was a shape changer who turned into a bear. And I think that's probably where they're being like templated from.
Yeah. But anyway, but there's that kind of like scene like where Peter Parker wakes up in the Spider-Man movie, not the Amazing Spider-Man, just like the Spider-Man movies made by Tobey Maguire, where like he wakes up after he's bit, and like he looks in the mirror and he's like, whoa, I got super buff in my sleep, dang. Like, I kind of like the player waking up and then just like looking in the mirror and is like, oh my god, I've got instant abs, what the hell? Yeah. They're kind of like, what the hell? I've got 19 strength, what the fuck?
So, for the 5 types of lycanthrope listed,
which for some reason werejackals aren't included in this, which I find really weird.
Werejackals are a monster, but are not considered a lycanthrope. I think it's because werejackals in 5th edition are jackals who turn into humans and not the other way around. Which is a bit weird, but So of the 5 lycanthropes listed, 4 of them have strength of various levels as a focus stat. The were-rat has dexterity. But you can template pretty much anything you like. I templated, obviously there were rules for were-spiders in 2nd edition. I just made up rules for were-spiders when I converted that scenario to 5th edition, because it's really easy. Their focus stat is dexterity, and one of the perks that they get is that they can spider climb at will. That's pretty nice. Because, there are, like, other... things that get given depending on the lycanthrope. You can probably make up some for, whatever exactly you want to. Anyway, let's do werewolves, because that's what people want to hear, I think.
Yeah, let's talk about werewolves, right? Although I will say this, I really like the were-tiger picture, and like, look guys, I'm not a furry, okay, but I do want to be cuddled by that were-tiger.
It's way better than the were-tiger picture from 2nd edition. If you go on Lomian.de and look up the were-tiger, it's worse than the were-fox, which I showed Beth before we started recording.
Ah, yes.
The tiger titty. Oh no. Oh no.
Tiger titties.
Anyway, werewolves.
But you look at the were-tiger and you want to be held in the were-tiger's strong arms, and
I actually do. It looks like a very nice were-tiger.
Yeah, and you know that the were-tiger could provide for you, and
whereas
give you a stable home.
Whereas the werewolf is like, I mean, if you get on the werewolf's good side, he'll like beat up anyone who's harassing you. But otherwise, I don't think there's a lot to be valued in this werewolf. He's making a horrible grimace.
Like the werewolf's alright to go like out drinking with and stuff like that, because like he gets all the jerks away and stuff. But like you don't actually want to date the werewolf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so werewolf, medium humanoid, human, shape changer, chaotic evil. Immune to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage from non-magical weapons that aren't silvered. Silver is in flavor, so I feel like for challenge level 3, silver weapons are going to be a lot easier to come across than magical weapons. But the problem with silver weapons is you can basically only use them for fighting were creatures, because you can't use them as normal weapons, because silver is not very rigid. That's why people don't just silver all of their weapons.
Yeah. Hold up. I've seen the picture for the Were Tiger for 2nd edition. What the fuck? That is a furry. Really okay, that's a furry. It's a furry tiger tits. What the hell? Anyway, back onto werewolves.
So yeah, okay. I think in this case we have to presume that the stat block given for the werewolf is the stat block given for NPC werewolves that turn up, and obviously if the base race that the werewolf is changed, you would change things. Like it has languages common, maybe you want to change that to languages elvish if it's an elf or whatever. We're not doing the weird AD&D thing where anything that isn't a human that becomes a were creature dies the first time it tries to transform, because that's bollocks. Okay, what do we got? The thing about werewolves is it's like, at challenge level 3, they're perfect for either turning up on their own at low levels or turning up in packs later on. They're really, really good for that, I think. So definitely consider doing that with werewolves at least. I think were-rats you can get away with it as well if you're going to include those. Were-bears I think are very, very solitary. There has been a were-bear in a scenario that I wrote, but the players never met her. They completely passed her by. Okay, so... Oh, the werewolf has a...
Yeah, although I have confirmed in 2 Earth, there is a bar that exclusively caters to werebear clientele.
Fucking bars with bears. Is that all 2 Earth is? Bear bars.
Yeah. Bear bars. Yeah.
Okay, so the number one annoying thing for werewolves, I think, is the shape changer ability. The werewolf can use its action to polymorph into a wolf-humanoid hybrid or into a wolf or back into its true form, which is humanoid. Its statistics, other than its AC, are the same in each form. Any equipment it is wearing or carrying isn't transformed, and it returns to its true form if it dies. Any equipment that it is wearing or carrying isn't transformed. Okay, so there's a series of books by Kelly Armstrong, which focus, at least in the first couple and later on this this woman who is the only female werewolf in the world, because of that universe's rules on how were creatures work. And she frequently complains about the fact that physical items that are on her person, including clothing, are like not transformed when she transforms, so she has to keep remembering where she left them before she transforms. And at one point one of the other characters suggests that she like has a bum bag or fanny pack or whatever you want to call it that she just like ties around her waist before she transforms and puts all her clothes in. And that's just what I thought of when I saw this, because I think that's probably the most annoying thing about transforming.
I mean, it just destroyed a lot of outfits. Like, I've drawn a picture of Jay in, like, quite nice clothes, and I'm like, but Jay would never actually wear this.
Take those off the moment that painting was finished.
Yeah.
And be like, I can't wear these long term because I would forget.
Can't wear nice clothes. You can't do it if you're going to be a were creature, because you're always going to forget to take your clothes nice clothes off.
Are, like,
also,
really
it takes a whole action, so it would be really awkward and weird anywhere. Also, there's this sort of, I guess, catharsis about, like, turning into this giant monster and all of your clothes just, like, ripping off and you being like, oh no!
One of the fun things about being a were creature is that unless you get a straight upgrade on one of your abilities that isn't normally available to something of your, somebody of your race, which, may be the case if you get something like Jay's Spider Climb at Will, or you get a really, really good stat bonus. But were creatures don't scale. That's the thing. Your stats, except your AC, don't change when you transform, so you're only really as strong as you would be in a human form. And you get new attacks. You get the bite and claws attack, but they're not honestly that great. Like, maybe they're really, really good if you get turned at, like, level 1, especially since you get the stat bonus then, but even then, it's not massively good. I think Jay has poison, which is better.
Jay has poison?
Well, I feel like they must do, because, like, Gale had poison.
Oh.
And, like, the poison is, like, the poison that does all the transforming and stuff, with the curse in it.
Oh.
Because although I feel like
see.
spiders don't really bite unless they're poisonous, so Jay would have to have poison.
No, yeah, you're right, yeah.
So maybe we can workshop that. But yeah, okay, so you do get keen hearing and smell. The werewolf has advantage on wisdom, perception checks that rely on hearing or smell. The hearing thing I don't really get, but the smell thing is common for all dog templated creatures.
Yeah.
So, although it does look like that's the case for every single
I think,
creature.
yeah, the tiger gets it, the sea of the boar
were-rat
gets it.
The boar doesn't get it, but the were-bear does, so...
Yeah, well, that kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Because I don't know if pigs aren't particularly famed for their keen smell.
Yes, they are. Pigs have a
Are
ridiculously
they?
good sense of smell.
That's really strange. I mean, isn't it? I mean, when you say pig, I don't immediately think amazing smell. I'm like,
No, they root around and they
Bacon.
smell. That's why they used to find truffles.
oh yeah, of course,
They
yeah.
have really, really good senses of smell. So it's kind of weird that the boar doesn't have.
Yeah. What the fuck, wizards?
Oh,
Um,
I don't know.
but yeah,
Like, the were-boar seems to be weird anyway. One of the good things is you generally get two additional forms. Like, you can be like a straight wolf if you're a werewolf, but you can also be like the human wolf hybrid that we kind of think about when we hear werewolf and that's depicted in the art.
yeah. But Jay doesn't get that then? Jay can't... I mean, obviously Jay can't turn into an actual spider. That would be really silly. Because that's a significant downside,
huge spiders
isn't
are
it?
like a huge spider thing. I feel like maybe they're...
Yeah.
Second edition did describe a hybrid human spider form.
Yeah.
The picture of it was fucking horrifying, and it had really weird rules attached to it. So I just haven't come up with one at this point, but we could totally workshop Jay having one of those.
Yeah, like, I'm just sort of wondering, can Jay turn into a Drider-like creature?
I feel that's
which
not really
would be...
how it would work. Like,
No, yeah.
You'd have things like Jay's face would probably... I think whenever I describe the transformation, Jay's face is one of the things that changes pretty early on. So you would maybe have, like, ability to access the poisonous bite without going completely Spoda.
Yeah.
Or stuff like that. Or maybe, like, generating more, like, humanoid hands. Or something like that.
No, yeah. Okay.
But anyway, werewolves. They're a thing. Use lycanthropes because they're really cool. You may use your own judgment as to how much a player needs to be punished for being turned into a lycanthrope.
Yeah. I mean, 2Earth's basically populated with, like, lycanthropes and other, like... You know, this sort of shit, basically. But I mean, it's not really considered. Like, it depends on the culture you come from. It's not always considered a curse.
Yeah, I mean, like, Dawn Summer has quite a lot of were creatures, and I love coming up with new ones for new environments. But it's really now I want to like
I do want to call it like a were bird of some
like
kind.
A were-bird, or maybe like a were-bat. There's a were-bat described in the second edition Monster Manual, actually, so you could convert the...
there is that, yeah.
I want to talk about a couple of spooky things from the second edition Monster Manual, but we're running short on time, so I will shoot through.
Alright, yeah.
One of the things I really love is the crypt thing. This is basically a robed skeleton that will fuck you up, and it will teleport you away from whatever it's guarding, which can be very, very irritating. And as its name suggests, it lives in a crypt. I just really like it because it sounds like exactly the kind of thing that would turn up in like a Hammer horror movie. It's just called Crypt Thing.
Yeah, Crypt Thing.
If you want more explicit horror, then in the second edition Monster Manual also defines a couple of other kinds of things under the golem category. It defines dolls, which are either evil teddy bears or basically Chucky. Very, very scary. Really use your own judgment about using those. Also bone golems, which are like kind of like skeletons, but they're just sort of bones put together in a vague skeleton shape and with no real attention paid to the bones being from the same animal or even in the correct arrangement, which can be pretty scary. The Necrophidius, which is a human skull with fangs on a big giant snake skeleton body.
Yes.
I've played with those before, and they're really fun to do. What else do you have? You have the Haunt, which you really have to go into detail about exactly like what it does, but basically it's allowed to possess people and get them to do its bidding, which is its whole deal. The Hyukuva, which is kind of like the crypt thing, but more difficult because it sort of disguises itself as like normal humanoids and stuff. So they're another kind of restless spirit. And the Living Wall. This is the thing that I'm kind of disappointed was not like revived for 5th edition. I hope it will be in like one of the next months, especially if they do like.
I'm disappointed Wendigos aren't in this edition's monster manual. Well, the first one anyway. So we'll get more.
Living walls are going to be normal walls of stone or brick, although they radiate both evil magic and magic if detected. A living wall is essentially like your skeleton gets absorbed into the wall, and the wall attacks you with like all of the horrible skeletons and bits of like stripped flesh that are like just embedded in the wall. And if you can see through illusions, then you can see like all of the skulls and shit in the wall. The provided illustration is really freaky.
Is it?
Yeah, it might be on Lumion, but I don't know if.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be. Just every time I do that, I have to load up fucking Lumion and.
Weird thing about them is that they never initiate combat except against their creators because they despise their creators. Possibly because they're all the creatures included are included against their will, and it's just like a horrible I have no mouth but I must scream kind of deal. So it makes sense that they would attack their creators but nobody else.
Yeah.
It's a horrible, horrible fate.
Yeah.
There's also some like really good stuff in this monster manual about mists, which I won't get into too much, but it's like how you can have a mist that lowers upon a party be like a monster that can harm them. And it provides like 2 examples about how that can be done, which I think were really, really cool. Phantoms, which are like ghosts, but they're kind of like, you know that thing where like ghosts are like movies of somebody getting killed, just played over and over again?
Yes.
Yeah, they're that kind. It's weird that they're even in the 2nd edition monster manual because like it says they're not really monsters. They don't have an armor class. They don't have hit dice or a THAC0. They don't attack and they can't really be attacked. They can basically only be dispelled. So,
yeah.
And then also the giant skeleton, which is not spooky, but which I wanted to talk about just because it laboriously explains that the giant skeleton is not the skeleton of a giant. It's a normal human skeleton that has been made giant. And it's like, this is a really weird thing to specify. And also, like, the inside of their chests are on fire. For no particular fucking reason. This is just a really ridiculous monster.
Mm-hmm.
And it throws fire at you from inside its rib cage. I love it. AT&T was off the rails. Anyway, I hope somewhere in all of that incoherent rambling, you found something that will help you to do some kind of spooky scenario. Either this Halloween, probably not this Halloween to be honest, because, you know, unless you want to do something soon after this, it's going to be out of the season, or another Halloween, or just for the sake of doing something a bit spooky. You know, horror scenarios, definitely a thing that you could do. I've done one already about Harvest Night. I'm going to do another one about Harvest Night that's very different. It's very soon. It's going to be like... I might have said this earlier in the episode. I was thinking, do I want it to be more Amnesia or Doom? And I eventually settled on, I kind of want it to be more Doctor Who. Or maybe Torchwood, actually. You know, just a little bit more frightening. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping it will go down very well.
Yeah. So, yeah. I do want to say this, though. Briefly, I just want to talk about Tarrasques a little bit. And I figured out an awesome way to fight Tarrasques. Jaegers. Right, look, if your law supports them, just do the plot of Pacific Rim.
I mean, it wouldn't work in the current 2-Earth game because, like, pretty much nobody in that party is drift compatible. They all fucking hate each other and they're lying to each other and they're just really distrustful.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is good. I like it. Will they ever be friends in 2-Earth?
Maybe. maybe
I do
don't
wonder.
know. Azrael will have to
Maybe.
like start trusting them, and I don't know about the others. Maybe they also will have to like get past some shit before that can happen. Who knows? We will keep you updated if that happens. Until then, I have been Alex.
And I've been
and
Beth.
This has been House of Bards. You can contact me on Twitter and Tumblr as Cleaver Crummish. I will write how you spell that in the description. And Beth is
Baroness Beth on Twitter and on
you can use the hashtag House of Bards. That is all one word on Twitter, but anywhere that will allow you to put multiple words, put multiple words with spaces.
So if you have any feedback for us, any ideas for topics, although we have a few in the
we add to the Google Doc now.
But although again, if you have anything to you've made anything for us or something, or even if you just want to say something, that's cool too.
Yeah.
So the album art is whatever the album art is. The album art is whatever the album art is.
I maybe come across like some things, but there's probably like a whole load of like Hammer horror stills in Wikimedia, so I can. If I can get Christopher Lee as Dracula, I will do Christopher Lee as Dracula. I promise you, I would not deprive you of that.
Yes.
And
we are.
If you have a suggestion for us, please do post it below or send it to one of us on Twitter or Tumblr or whatever. And until next time, thank you for listening.